So guys, I got this in the mail yesterday. It's the new April dripper. Well, I don't know if it's new, but this is the new colorway. It's a mint green and it is plastic. I have never worked with this dripper before until today. So I'm super excited to share my first impressions on this dripper with you guys. If you guys are new here, my name is Vincent and I'm the head roaster for Tales Coffee. And if you love educational and experimental videos, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification so you can get the latest updates on my newest techniques. So let's do a quick overview of the dripper itself. It's actually very minimalistic, it's very cool looking. I love the mint green colorway actually. I've never seen another mint green dripper, so this is really nice. We have the plastic one and it only has a little branding right there and it says April. So this is by definition a flat bottom dripper. Now, if you actually look at it, I also have a Kalita one as well. I feel like everything about the drippers are almost the same except for the very bottom. So this is where the April dripper is more unique. It's just this bottom right over here versus the Kalita, which is like this. So the biggest difference is that this one has one singular hole at the bottom and it's flat all the way until the bottom, which actually has a divot, whereas the Kalita is flat all the way. So the biggest issues I've always had with the Kalita was that it had a clogging issue. Now I know a lot of you guys commented on our Kalita video. They said that the ceramic one doesn't have that issue. Now my argument is that if I'm gonna buy a product, it should work regardless of the material. And if the metal one doesn't work for me, I was really not entitled to buy the ceramic one. Whereas the April has actually solved the clogging issue by having it dip downwards. And now having only one hole, it makes the water want to funnel one direction. And so it's quite a bit, in my opinion, better designed than the Kalita. So a little background about me and flat bottoms. Personally speaking, I don't really like them. I only actually have experience with the Kalita waves. And I always had the clogging issue with it. So if you watch my video, you'll know that I didn't have an amazing experience with the Kalita itself. Yesterday was when I got this, so I've only had today, which is like the last 10 hours, to really work with the April dripper. So I actually quite like this a lot more. I don't have any of the clogging issues. The flow rate is quite nice. Now, the only thing I will preface is I actually could not get their own filter papers because they were actually sold out of their own filters. So when I was doing the testing today, I used the Kalita wave filters and I will be doing that in the demo later as well. But that's just a quick thing. I really enjoyed using it. It has a lot faster of a flow rate than what I am used to. And I always try it with a single pour first because that's my standard technique. I did a lot of testing with the 20 grams to 300 gram brews, but like all flat bottoms, we have a similar issue actually. And that is because the base of the dripper is wider, the grounds are going to be a little bit thinner when you put them in. So 20 grams in a flat bottom dripper could only be like that high. Whereas in the Hario V60, it could be like that high. And the water has a lot more distance to pass through. And I've heard a lot of arguments on how the V60 could be a little bit less even extraction and a flat bottom could be. It's just how you brew with it. So now that we have talked about how the bed will be a little bit more flat, what we're gonna be looking to do is we're gonna look to actually saturate the grinds or the grounds a lot faster in the earlier time. And because it's more shallow, the water tends to drip out quite a bit quicker, which creates a lot more brightness in the coffees. And if you wanted something a little bit more deeper or heavier, this might not be the dripper for you per se. What you could do is, if you're like me and you do like a little bit of a richer body, we're gonna talk about a couple of techniques. So the first one is, I always set my grounds the same. I kind of stir them, spiral them out, loosen them, but when we do it, if you really wanted a deeper texture, you could actually tap it quite a bit harder and you can pack the grounds together a little bit tighter. And now this will actually help prevent the first drip from coming out too quickly, and we're gonna have a richer flavor. The other thing you can do is you can actually look to pour a little bit higher, not too high because then you actually dig, but at about, I would say like this far away from the dripper. And you would want to pour with more of the droplets. And this allows the droplets to kind of sit on the top of the bed, float on top, and slowly kind of sink and saturate down. We're still gonna be looking to have our first drip of coffee coming out at about 15 seconds. It's a little bit harder on a flatbed, but that is actually what I think we're looking to try to do to create the best flavors.
Hey guys, great job last week about coughing up that money for some coffee, all right? But I need you to keep it up. Make sure to use code BABYDogecoin for 15% off your purchase for coffee, or else, I'm gonna come for you with this paddle. you know? Anyways, tailscoffee.com, use code BABYDogecoin for 15% off.
So in my experiments today, I ran a lot of tests, but especially primarily between the single pours or blooming. Now the designers of April Dripper are April themselves, the coffee roasters. I've watched a couple of their videos. I love what they do. And they generally talk about how they don't like super highly extracted coffees. So we're looking for like a 20% yield. And so at the end of the day, if you use a bloom, you tend to get a lot more pastiness or muddiness, which creates a higher extraction. And I don't think that actually pertains to what they're looking for, at least not with the techniques I like to use between like my grind size or my pouring style. So at the end of the day, I still found that I had much more success with the single pours itself. I was able to create sweeter, juicier, and brighter coffees. I'm just gonna quickly go over the equipment I will be using in my brew or my demo today. I've got the Kalita Waves, which is my only filter of choice for now. Of course, we're gonna be using the April Dripper. That's what we're testing out anyways. I've got my trusty carafe from Hario. And then for the kettle of choice, I actually chose the Time War, and that's because you're able to get more vertical. On a flatbed like this one, you kind of want a more vertical pour because any directional movement causes a lot of agitation in unwanted directions, I guess. I liked the Time War one the best out of all my brews today. And then we're going to be using a Hario scale. So that's the equipment. As for the recipe, it's more of my standard recipe. I use 20 grams of beans. They're more on the medium fine grind side. I was told that my 300 microns might be closer to 350, so we're going up to 350 microns today. And yeah, the idea is to start slow in the middle. We're gonna be pouring nice and slowly in the middle to prevent the first drip from coming out. We're gonna be starting a little bit higher from the dripper to get the droplets to slap on them. And then we're going to be moving out in a circular motion really quickly because we want to get all the grounds moistened at about the same time. It's because it's a flatbed, so none of the water actually gets to funnel through everything else. So we're going to move out quickly, move back into the middle, and then we're going to pour relatively strongly down the middle just to lift everything up. As always, I give it a stir, and because it's a flat bottom, I want the grounds to kind of sink in the dripper as quickly as possible. So how we're gonna do that is after we stir, because we're done all our pour to 300 grams, we're going to gently lift it up, and then we're gonna drop it down. And when you drop it down, what happens is all the grounds, all the coffee that's floating in the middle of the dripper right here, it's just gonna get settled down because that kind of tap motion forces everything down. And I can't actually prove this, but I've done it a lot. You get a lot faster of a sinking process, and it has worked well for me for my flat bottoms. So that's what we're gonna be doing. And let's get right over there and start the demo. So here we've got all the grinds set up. I preheated the filter. I've got the 20 grams of beans in there. It's on the medium fine side, and I've got a 98-degree water with the Time War kettle. So we're gonna start with a little bit of a higher pour to create that slow, drippy effect. This allows it to sit on the top without going too down quickly. We're gonna quickly work our way out so that we can get all the ground saturated. Make sure to do a flush to push everything back in. Go back towards the middle. Work your way back out. And look, once we've got all the grounds kind of pressed down, we're now confident that all the grounds are going to be fully extracted, and we can now just kind of get closer and pour down the middle. And once we've hit the 300 mark, we're gonna give it a quick stir. This allows us to make sure everything has been fully extracted. And then we're gonna give it a quick tap. So I'm gonna show you guys, this is a higher tap and this is a lower tap. Now the taps themselves, they actually help settle the grounds. Because it is a flat bottom, I always fear that there's not enough time or extraction motion. So by tapping, we settle the grounds and let all the water kind of just strain through and touch all the grinds for as long as possible. And this allows us to have the strongest flavor, in my opinion, possible with this device. On the V60, it's a little bit different because of the conical shape. We don't have to do that. We kind of want the grounds to be floating a little bit more, otherwise it's gonna be too much contact time. On this one, because the bed is so shallow, we're trying to reduce or increase the amount of contact time by settling the grounds a little bit earlier. As we start to see the grounds peak out, by nature, because I did stir, we're gonna have a slight dome, but it's not a huge one. We're just gonna give it a quick tap, and that's when you tap all the grounds loose, make sure the rest of the liquids can actually just flow through, and there we have ourselves a flat bed. If you wanna take a look, the grounds are not too muddy. It is still slightly granular. Our timing was quite nice. It was about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So yeah, let's get back onto the other side and just quickly talk over the brew itself. So we're back on this side. I'm gonna pour myself the coffee. I already know that it's gonna taste great. I troubleshooted a lot of this before, but yeah, like I was saying, the tap actually slows down the brew quite a bit. So you can see that the bed is a little bit muddier than expected. It's because I did a second tap for you guys to kind of just show you guys an exaggerated one versus a less exaggerated one. Normally though, when I was running the tests, they were only taking about 2 minutes and 30 seconds, about 2 minutes. That was a really good brew time. It starts with having a higher pour in those droplets. Those droplets really help agitate the grounds a lot. We look to pour them out, and that's how I think we have the most even extraction. It's because we're able to carry out all the flavors as quickly as possible without disturbing the bed after we've set the bed, at least. Cheers, by the way. So it's still bright. It's still quite a bright coffee. Very enjoyable, very tasty. It's to match what I think the designers of April were trying to create with their coffees in their first place. They wanted to have like a brighter flavor, a lower yield. And so with a single pour, I'm able to kind of hit that. A little bit of an afterthought though. It was a little bit sludgy, it was a little bit messy for me. I would probably not do a second tap the next time or tap from a lower point, and that helps me settle the grounds without creating too much settling. I tend to like to have it a little bit brighter in that sense. At the beginning though, there's nothing you can really do. Most of the coffees, like it stops flowing a little bit after the initial couple of drips, and that's because the bed of the coffee is really thin. So when you pour into it, the water doesn't actually have a lot of distance to travel through, and that's why it's hard to get a strong first drip. And because of the height of this dripper, you can't exactly pour super close to the bed either. It is relatively high given that we only have 20 grams. Maybe, like I've theorized before, for future references, I think maybe a flatbed would be better for brewing larger cups of coffee. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of the drip coffee machines, they're flat bottoms themselves. So maybe it is better to brew larger cups of coffee with a flatbed. So maybe next time I'm gonna try 30 grams of beans and work with 450 grams of water. There shouldn't be any clogging issues. So the solution to brewing larger cups might not be to change the pouring technique in a V60. Maybe we just change to the April dripper itself. Lovely cup of coffee, really well done on the design. I loved how it had kind of the divot at the bottom instead of lifting the filter up. It just gave it a little bit more space for the water or the coffees to flow through. Lots more room for the coffee to flow through, so there's gonna be a lot more even extraction, the water kind of has a lot more places to flow through at the same time. So really happy with the dripper itself. As a final note though, I did want to go over the pricing. We are in Canada. The dripper itself, I believe, should only be about 45 Canadian dollars, but after shipping, it did come to 65. So we kind of did make a little bit of a short. It was more of a funny kind of joke on the side thing. We didn't mean any disrespect to April drippers, but the pricing was a little bit higher than kind of a similar build for like a V60 would be about $15 to $20 for a plastic one. In Canada at least. And so we did find the April dripper a little bit on the higher price point. But at the end of the day, like, it made a really great cup of coffee. It was really easier to work with, and I love the design itself. So these are my first impressions on the dripper itself. Let me know if you guys have one and what your thoughts on the April dripper are. I will be doing a lot more testing as the day as the days pass by. I'm gonna be making at least one coffee a day on it. And I will be doing a full review once I kind of get a lot more of my experiments out and once I get the April coffee filters in. That's kind of important. I'd like to test their full set together. If there's anything you guys would like me to test, please let me know in the comments below. A lot of different theories we could be playing around with. And happy brewing, guys. Bye.